this is weird. I haven't heard a peep about this, but according to the Philadelphia Inquirer, after the Eagles lost to the Commanders on the field, Nick Sirianni got into it with former Eagles / current Commander tight end Zach Ertz. They had to be separated in post-game. Now, I haven't seen video yet, but Big Dom, remember that guy from the sideline last year? He separated Ertz and Sirianni. And Sirianni has since apologized to Ertz on a Zoom call.
Jesus, he's got to grow up.
I'm just telling, I know people want to say, oh, they're great record.
He's kind of coming across as a meathead.
Kind of goofy stuff every week at something. Now, he met with the media today and also said that Jalen Hurts is still in concussion protocol. And it's starting to sound like he will not start. They called up Ian Book from the practice squad. And oh, by the way, Kenny Pickett hurt his ribs against Washington. So the Eagles suddenly walking wounded.
I mean, I'm
the
sorry,
line
but
is cratering. This was 9.5. It's down to 6.5.
Yeah, this Sirianni stuff, I go back to this. The fact that a coach on the staff stepped in front of the head coach on a 10-game, 9-game winning streak to not let him get to Jalen Carter. That tells you amongst the staff there's a lot of eye-rolling with Nick Sirianni. I'm telling you, if they get bounced in the first round, he's out.
If they get smashed in the second round, I would not be shocked if he gets.
What does it tell you that not even a coordinator, a position coach on the team stepped in front of him, said, go back to the sideline? A position coach.
And why are you taking shots at Zach Ertz? Like, he was beloved in Philly. And a coach separated from someone's tight end on the opposing team? That's
it's
like
really bad.
It's just not a good look for the franchise. I don't know. I kind of am with you. I don't know that Sirianni's coaching there next year, and I do believe because of this situation, guys like Vrabel and Ben Johnson, they're going to hold off. You don't want to go take like the Saints or the Jets, not with the Eagles' job potentially lurking out there, right? This was easily the best job on the market. Way better than the Bears, no?
Easily. This is the one I think Belichick would go for.
Well, but he's now at North Carolina.
Well, he can leave, though. Remember, he is allowed to leave with a tiny buyout this July. He's allowed. That was the crazy little addendum in the contract. And I'm arguing that anybody that has that addendum fought for it with his attorneys. I'm sorry, but if the Philadelphia Eagles job came open or North Carolina, by the way, his son is already there as the defensive coordinator.
Right.
Huh.
So Eagles lose the NFC Championship to the...
That's different.
So you're keeping them? NFC Championship.
Yeah, I would. If you lose to Detroit in overtime, I can live with that. If you got upset in the first 2 rounds, I think he's in trouble. I just go back to that sideline encounter. That is not something doesn't smell right. Position coach. Get back to the headset, coach.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's not good. Final.
All right, the position coach, that made sense. I've already defended that. I am not unpacking that again. I've already done that a million times. But, first off, there's a lot of first offs. I don't know where I want to start with this one. They lose to overtime against the Detroit Lions, in the NFC Championship game. I mean, I don't know. I think it is accurate to say that Sirianni has a very short leash, and that it is kind of boom or bust. I mean, I just tried to look real fast to see if I could find the video. The only video that I saw really showed you nothing. It just showed them like walking in opposite directions. So I have no idea, honestly, if anyone else kind of has a better sense of what it was. But it's also kind of irrelevant. I don't care what it is. Like, it's definitely not a good look. There's no way around it, and I won't defend it. But in terms of what Colin is saying, especially about someone like a Bill Belichick, like that is a real thing. Getting that addendum like that to be able to be like, hey, I can not do this essentially by July. That's huge. That is huge, and it is absolutely the lawyers had to discuss all that. I've signed enough contracts, and I've had enough like interesting deals like that. I mean, I haven't never been a head coach for a major football program or whatnot, but I have been around enough to know that is like an absolute real thing. And so like that means Bill is thinking about something. What that something is, no idea. But we do know that the Eagles' job would be the most coveted. It's not even up for debate about that. It's not even up for debate. And that is, Ben Johnson, if he had to choose between the Bears and the Eagles, he's going to choose the Eagles. If it is actually offered to Bill Belichick, Bill Belichick is going to want it as well. So I don't know if Vrabel will be the right move. Personally, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that. I'm not anti it, but I'm not a fan of it either. And I know a lot of Philadelphia Eagles fans are very, 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 very supportive of Sirianni. And if they lost in the NFC Championship game, it's not enough. Like Colin is saying, oh, if they lose in the NFC Championship in overtime, I'd keep Sirianni. But you'd have to ask yourself, like, well, how did they lose in overtime? Like, what actually happened? Was the score 10-10 going into OT? Was it 45-45? What are we doing here? No, did Sirianni go for it when he shouldn't have? Didn't go for it when he should have had? How did the game actually unfold? So I'm of the school of thought, and I've kind of been up and down with Sirianni. I can appreciate what Sirianni brings to this team, but then he then goes ahead and does some kind of just weird stuff. That I think that this roster is too great, because even losing to the Detroit Lions in overtime, as Colin put it, he thinks that the Eagles have the better roster, that they're the better team. And if they're the better team, but they lose, it's like, well, then who does that fall on? Again, it'll depend on what actually happens in that game. But I think if you can fire Sirianni and get someone better, if you don't win the Super Bowl, then that is what you do. You got to elevate somewhere, somehow. I would not fire him to then just go bring in a Vrabel. And I'm not even so sure I would do it for Bill Belichick. I think Bill Belichick is kind of... I think Bill Belichick is still a great coach and can still do damage in the NFL. But I'm just not so sure that that's what makes the Eagles great for the next 5 years. I do believe you have that chance with a Ben Johnson. I do think that if you bring in a Ben Johnson, that offense, it's hard for me to imagine how versatile he's been offensively, that he's going to lose that shine in the NFL anytime soon. That he's just going to just not have that in him anymore. I think he's got at least 5 years of just like, bro, this guy's on different levels than everyone. And I think like that could be huge. And if you pair him with a Fangio, because that's the thing, then you keep Fangio as your defensive coordinator. Fangio's happy. You get the hotshot OC turned head coach now. And I think that would really go a long way. I'm not so sure Bill Belichick coming into the Philadelphia Eagles just commands that level of respect. Unfortunately for him, whether it's right or wrong of the players, I do not know if they see him in that light anymore. I just don't. It happens fast, man. So much of this stuff is just smoke and mirrors. It's an illusion. Your reputation is an illusion. 1 minute, Tom Brady's the GOAT. The next minute, people are making fun of him with his wife being divorced and having a kid with a Brazilian personal trainer or something. 1 minute, Tom Brady's on top of the world. The next minute, he's, answering for sins. Like, it's just one, it's left and right, left and right. It happens to everyone. 1 minute, Bill Belichick's the greatest coach ever. The next minute, nobody wants him. Atlanta Falcons are like, nah. And they're all making fun of him for riding bikes with, some young girlfriend. Like, it happens fast. It happens fast. And now when you get a new crop of players, 23, 24, 25, 26, it's not clear to me that they're looking at, that's Bill Belichick. In fact, my gut tells me that there's probably more whispers. And again, probably wrong to do it, but probably they're kind of like, nah, that's Bill, whatever, man. I don't think he has that reverence that he once had. I'm actually confident that someone like a Ben Johnson is probably more respected from the younger players than a Bill Belichick. And again, I'm not saying it should be that, but based off my own experience with some of these coaches and some of these players and whatnot, and kind of how it seems like things unfold, it's just hard to kind of regain that respect. And it just, I don't know. People like what's new. People like what's a little bit younger. And that's why it's like it's just not clear to me that if you bring in Bill Belichick, that like this team would be even better now. I think it wouldn't go backwards, I don't think, but I'm not so sure it would go forward either. And if the Eagles don't win the Super Bowl this year, then the question is, well, how do you get this team to go forward? How do you get this team to elevate? I don't know if that's Vrabel, and I don't know if that's Bill Belichick. So then it's like, okay, well then why are you going to fire Sirianni then? So I don't know. But that is the problem when you get these types of altercations. Because like now that's what you're talking about. You're talking about what do we do with Sirianni? I mean, you could be the biggest Sirianni fan and think that Sirianni is doing amazing. But you have to admit that it is a lot of weird things that just kind of keep happening. Some blown out of proportion, some 100% necessary. I mean, you people can point to his record and winning percentage. I think he's technically got like the highest win percentage of all active coaches, but he's at the best roster. He has the best roster. And if you have the highest win percentage and you don't win a Super Bowl, that's not going to be okay in Philly. This isn't the Dallas Cowboys here who are just like, yeah, let's run it back with Mike McCarthy. That's good. Let's do it. That's not who the Eagles are, man. They are constantly trying to build greatness. Outside of the Kansas City Chiefs for the last like 7-8 years, like 6-7 years, the Eagles have been one of the most consistent teams, if not the most, under the Chiefs. The Chiefs have won the Super Bowls. The Eagles just have the one, but they've been to multiple Super Bowls. The Bills haven't. The Ravens haven't. The Rams haven't. The Lions haven't. The Packers haven't. The Patriots haven't. I could do this all day. None of them have. So it's just different. The Eagles have been insanely consistent and have achieved very high levels. But they're just too well run of a franchise and they have too great of a roster right now to come up short. Outside of just an absolute heartbreaker where it's just like, you got Josh Allen, you got Patrick Mahomes, you got Lamar Jackson. It's not okay to lose to the Packers. It's not okay to lose to the Vikings. It's not okay to lose to the Lions. The Lions are not 100% healthy. If the Lions were 100% healthy and were just as dominant and ferocious as they were a couple weeks ago, then I would say, yeah, man, it makes sense. And I think that the Lions can beat the Eagles. But if you're looking at it from the Eagles' perspective, from the Eagles side, it should be like, no, you're not 100%. We are. That should be the difference. That should just give us a little bit extra. We're too good. We got this. You give us one extra turnover, the chances of us winning go up to 95%. Let's do it. Like, that's who the Eagles need to be. That's what the expectations are. I think it's okay if you make it to the Super Bowl and you lose to the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs. I think it would be very upsetting, and you would be frustrated, and you would be angry, but like you would lose to 3 quarterbacks who are like all-time greats, who are like truly, truly, truly special quarterbacks. So you can conceptually understand it, even if emotionally you don't want it to be the case. But like, nah, you can't lose to the Vikings. You can't lose to the Packers, the Lions, the Commanders. What? No. You can't lose to the Commanders. You can't lose to the Bucks. That would be unacceptable. It would be absolutely unacceptable. The Bills, the Ravens, they can only lose to each other, to the Chiefs and the Bengals. They can't lose to the Texans. They can't lose to the Steelers. They can't lose to the Colts or the Jags. It would be unacceptable. Indefensible. So I think that's where the Eagles are at in terms of what the expectations are and should be, and what the outcome would be, depending on, the outcome in terms of like what they would do moving forward, depending on the outcome itself of, the respective games. So, but yeah, it's always a little bit of a bummer when we need to have this conversation at this point in the season like this. But again, this is something that Sirianni brings on to himself. It is. Whether it was blown out of proportion or not, whether Ertz said something that he shouldn't have, it doesn't matter. This is where you're the man. This is where you're the dad. This is where you're the grown-up. It's like getting in a fight with a child. You're like, well, that kid said something to me. And he's like, he's 9 years old. I don't care. I don't care what he said. I don't care what he did. I don't care if he picked up his milk and threw it at the wall. I don't care, man. You're the adult. You're the man. You're the one in charge. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Sirianni, kind of everything that we talked about, as well as the Sirianni and Zach Ertz, had to be separated. But also kind of the whole coaching idea that Nick Sirianni would be gone between Ben Johnson, Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.